When Paragon first dropped in 2016, it kind of took over my life. It was one of the few multiplayer games that I actually wanted to try and get really good at, play competitively. I played that game religiously almost every day up until its shut down in 2018 from Epic Games. Now, there was a lot of reasons why Paragon did not succeed. Primarily so that Epic Games could focus on Fortnite, their big cash cow. They took developers from all of their projects to focus on Fortnite, which was becoming the most popular game in the world. But also, Paragon was in a constant state of flux, and the community did not like the direction that Epic Games was taking Paragon, or the lack of direction, really, because there was no direction. There was a lot of reasons, but generally there just was not enough players to sustain the game, and it ended up getting shut down in 2018. But as a way of apologizing to the community, they actually released millions of dollars of assets to the community. Models, sound effects, animations, textures, everything that was made to make Paragon was released to the public. And so the public got to work trying to remake Paragon in their own vision. Now, there's actually been a couple different Paragon remakes, but none of them have been able to succeed except for Predecessor here. And with Predecessor in early access for over a year at this point, it is actually in a better state than Paragon ever was. So in this video, we are going to talk about the top 5 reasons why I personally think that Predecessor is better than Paragon. Let's talk about it, let's figure out what the hell is going on and how Omega Studios have managed to make Predecessor a worthy spiritual successor. So one of the most important distinctions from Predecessor when compared to Paragon is the inclusion of an item shop as opposed to the card system that Paragon originally had. Paragon had a pretty in-depth card system where you were able to make your decks that will essentially be your build. And each of these cards would, have different passive and sometimes active components that would increase your crit chance, your attack speed, your damage, armor, so on, so forth. It was a really cool system, but it was also very, very hard to get into for new players. Creating a deck was quite hard, but Predecessor learned from the mistake of Epic Games and just have a traditional item shop that is pretty much the standard for all MOBAs. And I think this was definitely the right move. You have all of your standard items for your carry, your tanks, your supports, your casters. Everything is here, and you can create your build on the fly as you progress through the match, earning gold. And then you use that gold to purchase different items, and there's actually been a huge rework of the item system, so now it's even better than before, and it was definitely the right move. The card system again was really cool, but it was actually quite hard to understand, and as I'll talk about a little bit later, Epic Games was just constantly changing this system and was just constantly reworking it because they didn't really have a set system in stone. They really did not know what they wanted to do with the card system, so it underwent a lot of changes, and some of them good, some of them bad, but primarily the item shop is 100% better when it comes to just making an action MOBA here, and it was definitely the right choice. For number 2, we have new game modes and ranked. That's right, Predecessor actually just launched a brand new game mode and a new map called Brawl, which is essentially Arena from Smite. This is fantastic, and it's not the only new game mode that's going to be coming to Predecessor. We're likely going to be getting sort of a Joust mode, which is going to be a 3v3 mode. That's the rumors, but generally this is an arena style mode where you and your team are going to be pushing minions down a single lane, kind of a arena here. It's definitely just pretty much team deathmatch, and if you like kind of just getting right into the action, this is going to be the game mode for you. It's super fun, and it's a fantastic addition to the game. But guess what? Ranked is also coming too. That is something that Epic Games never got around to doing. Ranked is actually going to be coming a few weeks later from the time of this video. It's going to be in its early stages. It's definitely going to have some tweaks and stuff that's going to have to be updated over time, but we are getting ranked far quicker than, well, Epic Games never managed to get ranked out there. But the point is that there are new game modes, new maps, ranked is coming. It's already in a more content-rich state in less time than Epic Games managed to get Paragon into, and it's fantastic. Of course, with Predecessor, they do have a head start, with all the assets and stuff being, pretty much created for them, but still, the work has to be put in to create these new maps, these new modes, these updates, ranked. It's a lot of work, but they managed to pull it off in a decent amount of time, and it's going to be great for the competitive scene. Finally getting ranked in Paragon. It's in a fantastic state when it comes to that, and we're going to be getting more game modes down the line, so there's no doubt that there's going to be something for everybody when it comes to game modes and kind of just casual play and ranked play. It was definitely very much needed in Paragon, so I'm glad that it was a priority going into Predecessor. For number 3, we have consistent updates and communication. Epic Games was not very good at communicating what they wanted to do, and in the beginning the updates rolled out pretty quickly, but over time, as the game sort of died down, the updates and the communication sort of died with it. But Predecessor has actually been very, very good with consistently updating the game with new characters from both original Paragon as well as brand new characters that they have created themselves. There have been many major patches that again have reworked the item system, have improved character kits, and just added things to the game. It is in early access, so of course it's going to be in a state of change similar as to what Paragon was, but here we have these consistent updates very frequently, like every 3 weeks I believe. There's going to be a new character drop, major balance patches, and stuff like that. So the communication from Omega Studios has been pretty great. It is made from people who played Paragon, and they're pretty active on the socials, on YouTube and stuff like that. So we're constantly kind of knowing what the next plan is. They do these kind of like monthly or like bi-monthly big updates where they talk about the game, what they're thinking, what's coming up next. So lots of communication from the devs, and it really does make a big difference when they put out these big content patches. Next up is we just have that the game is just more beginner friendly. One of the toughest genres to get into are MOBAs. Paragon, Predecessor, Smite, Dota, League of Legends. It really doesn't make a difference. It's a very hard genre to get into for new players. There's just so much information that you need to know, what your characters do, what the enemy's characters do, the map, all of the different abilities, objectives, items. There's just so much that goes into it, and it's a very competitive, genre of game. People don't want to lose matches because these matches can go on for 30 minutes or longer, so losing a match can definitely feel pretty shitty. But Predecessor is actually a lot more beginner friendly. There is a more in-depth tutorial, there's practice modes, the item shop again in general is just better for new players as opposed to the deck building system. There's just a lot of things in play that just make it a little bit easier for new players to get into. And again, now with the more casual game mode with Brawl, you can jump into a 10 to 15 minute match and learn your character's kit, kind of learn what the enemy abilities do, practice some of the things like last hitting and landing your abilities in a more casual game mode without having to sink 30-45 minutes in a match where you're just going to end up losing. It's a great way to test builds. Again, they have a practice mode, they have a better tutorial, they have practice with bots, so it's just a lot more beginner friendly, and it's a lot easier to kind of dip your toes into one of the most intimidating game genres when it comes to multiplayer. So it's definitely more beginner friendly, and I think that also helps retain new players where they would have probably otherwise given up in just a few matches. And last but not least, and I actually think it's the most important, is that Predecessor and Omega Studios are avoiding the mistakes from Paragon and Epic Games. They have a consistent vision of what they want Paragon with what they want Predecessor to be. Sorry, going back and forth between these names. Yeah, it's one of the biggest issues that Epic Games had with Paragon is that they had no vision for the game. They didn't know what they wanted Paragon to be. So it was in a constant state of flux, like I mentioned earlier. Huge, game-changing, sweeping updates that would completely change the game. Every 6 months, it felt like we were playing a brand new game, but not for the better. They just didn't know what they wanted Paragon to be. Overwatch came out, they're like, so then they leaned into more making it like a hero shooter, completely like ripping the original map to updating Monolith, which is very similar to the map that we have here. That happened, I think, around like year one, just completely changing the game. And then they would change the card system like 3 or 4 times, changing hero kits and just changing pretty much the core identity of Paragon was just constantly changing. They had no clear vision, and it really did show, because it not only alienated returning players, but also new players as well. If you stepped away from the game for a couple months, you may come back and the game would be completely different. And sometimes that's a good thing. A game that is constantly being updated and, having worthwhile changes can be a good thing. But in a competitive multiplayer game where there really was no identity, Epic Games just didn't know what they wanted Paragon to be, and it definitely showed. And Predecessor is pretty much avoiding that. They have a very, clear roadmap of what they want Predecessor to be. The updates are consistent, the vision of the game is consistent, and they are just consistently leading into what they want Predecessor to be, and it does make a difference, and it's very clear to see between the two games. But that's the most important thing, is that Predecessor and Omega Studios are avoiding those mistakes, and we're getting a better game for it. But that's pretty much it, guys. Those are the top 5 reasons why I personally think that Predecessor is better than Paragon in its current state, and in my opinion, it's only going to get better. So if you liked this video, be sure to leave a like and a sub. It really does help me out. And let me know if you've played Paragon and now you're dipping your toes into Predecessor, or if you haven't played Paragon and this looks interesting to you. Let me know in the comments what your favorite character is. I do genuinely love to hear from you guys. But until the next one, peace out, and thanks for watching.